Let's take a look at the papers for you on Thursday morning. So, starting with The Guardian. Leading on President Trump's latest threats to Iran, saying they must accept a deal to end the war or face a wave of US bombings at a much higher intensity than before.
The Metro looks at a different aspect of the war in the Middle East, reporting that a potential peace deal has caused oil prices to dip, providing fresh hope for holidaymakers this summer.
President Trump hosts the Brazilian President Lula da Silva at the White House. We'll bring it to you live. The world awaits a response from Iran to Washington's latest proposals to end the war.
London's air ambulance is warning about the challenges of rising fuel costs caused by the current conflict in Iran and the Middle East. The charity says it's having to spend a significant amount more on fuel than before the start of the war, which means there's less money for other things. It refuels at RAF Northolt and Battersea helicopter pad and pays pump prices there. It says it's seen a 116% increase in the average fuel price from February to April this year.
Oil giant Shell has announced record profits thanks to rocketing oil prices caused by the Iran conflict. The company made more than £5 billion in the first 3 months of this year alone. That is £655 every second. Our business editor, Joel Hills, is in central London. Joel, huge profits. Is that at the expense of motorists?
Well, Shell is making more money selling petrol and diesel at the pumps, but the really stellar profits are coming from elsewhere. Shell's traders met successful bets on the wild fluctuations we've seen in energy prices on international markets. Meanwhile, the company's refineries are working pretty much flat out, trying to turn oil into jet fuel, diesel, chemicals for industry, products that Shell can sell, of course, at a higher price and at a much bigger, fatter profit margin currently. But even that's not the whole story, because actually oil and gas production at Shell has fallen on account of the war. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the missile and drone attacks that have happened on infrastructure in the Gulf is restricting what Shell can produce and sell. The company says its Pearl gas facility in Qatar was hit in March. The damage will take a year to repair. Now, Shell presents this as a temporary setback and the war as a temporary shock, but the chief executive said today that the world has lost about 1 billion barrels of oil so far and counting, and warned that the disruption would stretch on and be lasting. Now, of course, if you look at the war, it's caused energy prices to spike, and that has supercharged Shell's performance. Now, Shell has cranked up production in parts of the world like Brazil, which is producing record amount of oil, but in truth, the company hasn't really had to work very hard for extraordinary sums of money to fall into its lap. What has it done with the windfall? The lion's share has been handed back to shareholders, in some case pension funds, to the benefit of many pension savers. But it's really noticeable that at a time when the world arguably needs to wean itself off its addiction to fossil fuels, that Shell is not increasing the investment it makes in renewable forms of energy. Indeed, the company says that the investments that it has made to date in carbon capture and storage, in hydrogen, in wind and in solar energy production, in the main, are not actually profitable. They're loss-making. And that's a problem for us and for Shell and for the transition to net zero.
All right, Joel, thank you very much. Well, there is still no sign of a breakthrough in the Iran conflict tonight, although Tehran is reportedly considering a US peace proposal. Mediators in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad, say they remain hopeful that a deal could be reached soon. From Washington, our correspondent Robert Moore has the latest.
As if to highlight its continuing leverage over the world's economy, Iran has today broadcast new video of the 2 giant container ships that Tehran continues to hold as collateral. These are the 2 ships seized by IRGC naval forces 2 weeks ago. And the fate of these vessels is part of the much bigger negotiations to end the war. And visible on the bridge are posters of the late Supreme Leader, alongside one of his son and successor, Mojtaba Khomeini. The Americans, meanwhile, are still waiting for a response from Tehran to their proposal to have a formal 30-day ceasefire. For days now, Donald Trump has been insisting a deal is close.
They want to make a deal. We've had very good talks over the last 24 hours. And it's very possible that we'll make a deal.
Another man on a bridge-building mission today is the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio,
Mr. Secretary, good to see you.
who has been meeting with Pope Leo at the Vatican.
And it has the seal of the State Department.
It follows a frosty exchange of views between the pontiff and the president over what exactly is a just war.
With him, I don't think that the message of the gospel is meant to be abused in the way that some people are doing.
I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person.
Good morning. Good morning.
So Rubio's diplomatic skills are being severely tested here, with Vatican officials warning, as the US is finding out, that wars are easy to start and difficult to end. The economic cost is still mounting, with the latest maritime trackers showing more than 1,500 vessels trapped in the Gulf waters. Iran has also today moved forward with a plan to force ships to pay a toll as they transit through the Strait of Hormuz. A threat to the very idea of freedom of navigation, and another obstacle negotiators will need to overcome. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.